Good afternoon, everybody. It's a very windy day here in central Illinois, and finally spring has sprung itself upon us after a very long winter. And one of the things that always brightens my day for a very short time is the arrival of the dandelion. I have a love-hate relationship with the dandelion. On the love side, I enjoy seeing them pop up. The pretty yellow makes me realize that, wow, spring really is here. On the other hand, when I mow, 2 minutes later, I have to mow again because these babies grow faster than any plant that I have ever planted. I wish that the dandelion would teach my garden vegetables to grow with such breakneck speed. However, I decided that this year I was going to develop a better relationship with the dandelion. Rather than be grumpy about it, I was going to embrace the relationship with this plant that is never going to go away. I am an organic gardener, so spraying my yard with herbicides to kill them is really out of the question for me. And especially when we're going to be talking about some recipes using the dandelion, it's very important that you're using only those flowers that have not been sprayed either by a chemical or your pet. So let's get started. One of the things that I have noticed, I've been gardening for most of my life, is that my hands are really dry. I am out in the dirt. I don't like to use gloves. I come in, I scrub my hands with soap and water. I go back out. I repeat about 10 times each day, and my hands are so dried out. And I found a recipe on Pinterest that calls for the use of Dandelion-Infused gardener's lotion bars. And I thought, you know what? This is the year to try it. So what you want to do is you want to gather about a cup, a good handful of dandelions. And because the dandelion has got moisture in it, you want to set it on a white paper towel and let it dry out for about 2 to 3 days before you proceed with this recipe. So then once that you have got the dried dandelions, you're going to put them in a mason jar. I'm using a pint-sized mason jar, and I'm going to fill it up with almond oil. Probably, I'd say up to the top, probably right underneath where you're going to screw on the lid. And what you're going to do then is after you've got your almond oil and your lid on here, you're going to sit it in a pan of simmering water for about 1 to 2 hours. And this beautiful yellow is going to infuse in the oil. Keep it at a very low setting. You don't want the oil to burn. And then you're going to take it off of the stove and let it sit. I let mine sit for about a day. And then you're going to drain the oil into a separate pan. Now, in a lot other of my videos, I've said have a separate set of cookware that you're using to make these homemade beauty or homemade products that you're not going to ingest. You don't want to mix up your pots and pans with things like this along with your foodstuffs. So you're going to put the strained oil, dandelion-infused oil, in a pan, and you're going to add 2 bars of beeswax. I would estimate that each one is going to be about 1/4 cup melted. This came to about 1/2 cup. So you want another 1/2 cup of the beeswax. Then what you're going to do is you're going to melt the beeswax in the dandelion-infused oil. And once that beeswax has melted, you want to add 1/2 cup of shea butter. And, I added about 8 tablespoons, and then I mixed that up. And then once that is good and melted, I had an old copy box lid or something, probably about 12 inches wide by, 15, whatever small lid that you can find. You want to line that with wax paper, and you want to pour that liquid. It's going to be warm, so make sure that you are using gloves and stuff, but you're going to pour that in and let it set. And what you're going to end up with is these beautiful little gardener's lotion bars. and you're just going to rub them on your hand, and your hands feel so soft. I made, with this batch of a half a cup of almond oil, half a cup of melted beeswax, and a half a cup of the shea butter, I got 2 completely filled containers of these little lotion bars. And I think I'm going to have enough lotion bars to be able to get me through the gardening season. I think that they'll be perfect. Putting them on at nighttime. Sometimes I will put socks on my hand or mittens, you know, to help the moisture stay in my hands overnight. I think it's going to be a wonderful remedy to the dry hands of gardening. Another thing that I did this year that I had never tried before is I decided to fry dandelion blossoms. And I had read about a lot of people doing, you know, when they're foraging in their yard, there's so many things that you can eat out of your yard as long as you know what's safe or not. So thank goodness for Google, because, you know, I was looking at a number of websites to make sure that these were truly edible. So what I did was I picked you know, a handful, whatever I thought I was going to eat, because I surely knew that my daughter was not going to eat them. I was going to be the only one having a fried dandelion meal one night. And so what you're going to do is you want to soak them in salt water, because there's a lot of little critters that could be enjoying the benefits of this flower this season. So what you want to do is you want to soak them in salt water for a little bit, and then you're going to drain them. Then I created a batter out of flour, about a cup of flour, some garlic salt, some pepper. I added a teaspoon of curry, and then I used what my mother always used as a go-to batter maker, beer. So I added enough beer to make it moist enough to be able to dip. Now, if you don't want to use beer, use whatever liquid of your choice that you want to. I thought the beer added just a nice little tang. So what I did was then I took the dandelion flowers. I left the green on them. But I did take the stem off. You want to get the stem off as much as possible. So you really see it right there. You want it just the flower head. And so I dipped it into the batter, and then I dipped it into slightly salted breadcrumbs and fried in a mixture of butter and truffle oil. You can use whatever oil you've got. I like truffle oil. I think it's got a nice flavor and smell to it. Maybe I wanted to kind of pretend I was eating a morel mushroom, I don't know. But I love truffle oil. And then I fried it until both sides were nice and golden brown. Then I let them drain on a paper towel, and then I salted it. And it was tasty. So those are 2 recipes that I wanted to share with you, and hopefully you can make friends with the dandelion as well, because I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon. So I'm going to go. I've got to go out and pick some more dandelions, because the third thing that I'm going to make that I'm not going to talk about on this video, it might be another video, is I'm going to be making a batch of dandelion wine. I have done that in the past, and I loved it. So have a great afternoon. Go out there and pick some dandelions. Make those things get to work for us, rather than just being a simple nuisance as we're having to mow about 3 times a week just to get rid of them. Have a great day, everybody. Happy spring.